How good does it get, SK?
Why not us, Troy?
Today, live from the Pinecrest Inn, it's the Smylie Show. So long, everybody.
This is the Smylie Show.
All right, happy to be welcomed in by Mark Blackburn, who makes his home in Birmingham, Alabama. And Mark, congratulations is in order, of course, the PGA coach for Justin Rose and many other pros. But that had to be fun to watch at Torrey Pines, watching Justin Rose just dust the field, Mark.
Yeah, no, exciting. That's the first time I've had a wire-to-wire winner, and obviously the scoring record's unbelievable. So usually you're stressing, and then when someone's got that big a lead, now it's like, okay, well, 7 shots. I mean, can I actually go do something? Can I go to the store, and is he still going to be leading? So I actually went to Whole Foods, was doing some shopping, and I'm like, okay, well, he's still going. I'm like, okay. So it was actually interesting when I talked to him last night, because that's the first. I've never had that. So it was very impressive. His prep was really good. My wife said, "Oh, who's playing well this week?" I said, "Well, Rosie's in a really good spot." So it was interesting, like how it all transpired.
You know, things were going well, and as a PGA coach, I imagine you're constantly following the PGA Tour leaderboards on your phone, on the app, and so it had to be nice to have that wire-to-wire. And you talked about those errands, running to Whole Foods. You even dropped off a book to my house. This is a new book by Mark Blackburn, The Coaching Code. We'll talk a little bit more about this later, but that's even better when on a Sunday at 4 p.m. when you drop this book off, that you're not even having to watch. You could even just listen to Sirius XM in the car and just be like, you know what, this thing is on ice. that's quite the win.
I wish they were all like that. Usually they're not. They're all nail biters. So I generally don't watch anything until the back nine on Sunday. I tell all my players, the goal is to put you in position on the back nine on Sunday. And so whatever happens, my wife Melissa's big into, like, she keeps up with it. All the players, so she's like kind of tells you what's going on. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter until Sunday on the back nine anyway. So usually that's when you're into it. So this was very unique, but it's actually quite nice. It's not much stress.
How many wins is this for you now, Mark, as a coach on the PGA Tour?
This is going to sound terrible, but I couldn't tell you exactly.
Really? Don't know the number? Oh, no. Come on. You have to know the number.
I don't. I can tell you the first one was in 2005 or 2004 with Heath Slocum. I think it's 2005 in Jackson, Mississippi at the Southern Farm Bureau, but I've lost count now. So I guess that's a good sign, right? That you don't remember. It's actually funny because at the academy, I have a stack of flags that need to get framed to put on the wall, and everyone's laughing. It's like, we need to take these flags down. You've got so many new ones to put up. So I probably need to do that. But I generally couldn't tell you. I've lost count. So that's bad. I'm always worried about the next one. To be honest, it's like I'm like Nick Saban. So what's next, right? Like, okay, I've done that. I'm on to the next one. So you work towards a win, and then you get a win, and then you're like, okay, well, and then the next one. But obviously one guy wins, and then you have 4 or 5 others that didn't win, and they're headless, and the guy that wins is like euphoric, and then it's on to the next one.
It's one thing to the next as a coach. You get that win with the player, but the other players, sometimes are working through things. It's never quite as easy as it always feels, but it sure had to feel that way on Sunday. And of course, the Blackburn Golf Academy in Birmingham, Alabama at Greystone Crunchy Club. I've spent a bunch of time out there, been out there with you as well. And I actually do remember the flag signed by Heath Slocum in there. It probably was that 2005 win, which I'm sure was a sweet one for you, making your name in the teaching world, Mark. You know, getting that first big break when you started coaching in 1999 and finally get on a good player in Heath Slocum, where he was kind of struggling, but you found something, and 17 out of 18 made cuts later. You're now a winning coach on the PGA Tour. What did that feel like at the time, and did it feel like it was your first big break?
Yeah, no, for sure. I tell everybody it was like a Willy Wonka golden ticket moment, right? So I was really lucky. DJ Nelson, who we played mini tours together, he went to South Alabama when I was at Southern Miss. Then we traveled. I was the best man in his wedding. He was the best man in my wedding. And then he was Heath's caddy at the time, and Heath was struggling. And then, naive and young, probably wouldn't happen now. DJ's like, well, why don't you let Mark's teach him? Why don't you let Mark help you? And Heath and I knew each other really well from mini tour days. So I guess that was before the internet, Instagram, and any of those other things. So there was a shortage of information, and it's kind of the stars aligned. And so that was definitely my big break. And he was my first guy. And then I rolled that into Robert Carlson was kind of my second big guy. And so it's one of those things. If you do a good job and you're around, you kind of pick up other players. And once people see that you're into what you do and you're pushing players, you tend to get more clients. And it's like anything, success breeds success. But it was a interesting start. But again, look, you got to take what you can get. So very fortunate. It's just a crazy game.
Oh, 100%. You're a player first. So when I think about even my journey, Mark, and getting into media, I never, ever would have expected that I would be having a podcast or calling golf on TV. I was just always a golfer. And so for you, as somebody who also was a golfer, did you ever see yourself getting into instruction? And did you ever find yourself thinking about instruction at a higher level at an earlier age?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So obviously I wanted to play golf. Like, I grew up in England. I came to America on a scholarship because my aspiration was to play the European Tour. And then once I got to America, it was like the PGA Tour. And I think I'd always had kind of this affinity for like the swing and coaching and teaching and tinkering is probably the best way to say it. I say that's probably, which is a dangerous road to go, right? So I think my aspirations to play were probably derailed a little bit by wanting to understand things. And at the time, the information we have now is incredible. There's so many different disciplines that all go into coaching and teaching. And at the time, it really wasn't like that. And so the problem is when I was trying to play, it was like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. And I spent so much time on the range trying to get this perfect technique. I mean, it was a bit of a running joke on the Hooters tour. You get all these players and I'd still be on the range and have all these trinkets and props. So it probably was in the stars that was what was going to happen. But I think that also probably helped me in a way because the players I ended up coaching who went on to the tour, who we'd sort of come up through the Hooters tour together. They went on to the buy.com at the time and then the tour. They saw that was my passion early and I was really interested in it. So I think that created this sort of trust factor and it definitely helped me. But no, my aspirations were to play. I got injured and I think that along with not having great information kind of was this perfect storm for falling into coaching and teaching. And I think I wanted to stay in the game. My college degree was exercise science and coaching. So I kind of had some of that anyway. And then I kind of put some pieces together and it kind of transpired into teaching and coaching. And I love it. I mean, I think it's a lot of fun pushing people. I really enjoy the coaching part, like try to help people do things they didn't think were possible. And that's kind of where probably my niche is. I'm not the guy who's going to work with 50 people and that's just not my style. I'd rather have, a handful of guys and really try and push them and develop them and get them to be the best players they can be. And so it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, but it isn't where I saw myself. My aspirations were to have the name on the bag and be hitting the shots, not standing in the background watching. I tell everyone I have the coldest profession ever or the hottest, depending on where you are. I watch divots for a living.
I have vivid memories, Mark. When I was a kid, I took from Eric Ashelman out of Country Club of Birmingham, of course, is rising up the ranks, eventually going to be the president of the PGA of America. And he taught me so much at an early age, just first off, how to love the game, but also great mechanics. And there was one year in which he brought you or invited you over to Country Club of Birmingham to host, maybe it was a junior clinic of some sorts, but I remember thinking, who's this guy coming from Gunnersville? But also, why does he have a funny accent that isn't a Gunnerville accent? Do you remember when this would have been? And I'm just trying to jog my own memory here.
It would probably be, I think it might be early 2000s. It would probably be around.
So pre-Heath.
Yeah. I think it would probably be 01, 02, probably. Maybe it was a bit later than that. I'm not sure, but I think it would be early doors. Eric's always been a great friend. He's a good mentor. So yeah. And then he has a factory of juniors there at
Factory.
BCC.
It's an understatement. It's an understatement.
So Gary Bettman wants the USA to win because he knows the bump that they can get out of this. Canada wins, and it's like, yeah, whatever. Right? And the level of pressure on Canada in this is next level. It's equivalent to like Argentina in soccer or something, Brazil. It's one of those like, yeah, if you lose, don't bother coming home.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
They're just unblemished everywhere. They dominate you defensively, and they have offensive balance. They force turnovers and control the glass. Let's put it to you like this. UConn isn't just undefeated. They're a tyrant over the women's basketball landscape. March won't expose them much as they will confirm their invincibility.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The Patriots postseason to the worst regular season of the last umpteen years. Fair enough?
Fair.
All right. So the Patriots postseason, they averaged 1.13 points per drive, okay? Mm-hmm. The winless Cleveland Browns about 10 years ago averaged 1.22.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Yeah, Gunnersville's been great to me. My wife Melissa's from there. Two of my sort of original sponsors are from there, Alan Walker and a bunch of other folks. But Gunnersville was great. It was a really good place to like basically travel from. I had a great setup. I mean, the driving range was a ski slope. It looks over the lake. It's one of the most picturesque driving ranges you've ever seen, but it's downhill with short flight golf balls, which is quite interesting. But it was one of those things where it gave me a platform where I could travel all over. I could go see different people. And I was in a position where I worked at the golf course and was teaching, but then I could also go travel and see other coaches. And I was basically, the way it worked out, my wife was teaching dance and she was like, you need to go do whatever you can to educate yourself before we have kids or whatever. And so that's what I would do. And I'd go see a lot of different people. So I kind of started off in the golf machine world. Then I went into Mac O'Grady, and then I just started to see a bunch of different people. And then in the mid 2000s, I kind of spent some time with Greg Rose at TPI, and that kind of then nurtured into the stuff I'd done in college. And you put all the golf machine, lots of different ways to swing the club with physical assessments. And now all of a sudden you got different ways to swing the club and different patterns. And I would say one of the things I'm probably proudest of is the guys I coach, not one of them looks the same. All girls, right? They all have different patterns. And I think I've got a bit of a reputation now of being a bit like Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction, Mr. Wolf, fix it, right? So if somebody's like kind of a little messed up or they've struggled with something, they're coming off an injury, agents seem to call me, and that's what seems to happen. But I like that, right? It's one of those things where you kind of have to be authentic and be good at what you do to be able to help people, especially when they've been struggling. And so it's a fun, I like underdog stories. I'm a big fan of someone tells me they can't do something. I kind of like to push players and make them see things in themselves they can't. I mean, when Berger came to me, Steiny asked me to see Berger. Berger came to me, I think, in 23, I believe. And his club speed, he's been on his back for 2 years. His club speed was, it may have been late 23, early 24. His club speed with the driver was like 103, 104. Ben Shear had got him off the couch, done an amazing job with him. And then this week, he's sending me texts that he's of screenshots of his TrackMan with his driver at like 122, 186 ball speed. So it's one of those things where 186 ball 186 ball
Daniel
speed.
Berger's hitting 186 ball speed.
Yeah,
Come on, bud.
he's fast. So again, it's things like that. But that's kind of, I would say, that's the thing I really enjoy. That's why I wrote this book. Like, I like the coaching part and getting people to do things they didn't think were possible. That's one of the most gratifying things with Rosie. He'd got to number one, struggling. COVID was terrible for everybody. And for Rosie, he didn't really have access to anybody. So it was really difficult for him. And obviously he had a great run with Sean, and then they couldn't see each other. It was because of COVID. And then Rosie started tinkering and he kind of all went sideways. But when I got with him, I was like, Rosie, I still think you've got some really good golf left. I think you need to change a few things, maybe go back to some things you used to do. And obviously we've kind of seen where he's gone. So I would say I really enjoy that part of it. I think that's a lot of fun. So developing juniors and then taking struggling players and trying to help them, I think, is a lot of fun.
You know, it's so nice to be able to go back and look at old videos, or, you know, now being able to take data from something you've recorded of a swing years ago and be able to cross-check it versus how you're swinging now. Going all the way back to when you began in teaching, Mark, and looking at where the technology is now, at the beginning, were you one that was kind of pushing boundaries when it came to the technology? Where for the longest time, I think my dad, you know, he went to all these coaches as well, and it was all of these, you know, whether it was, you know, golf machine type stuff, but all of it was like feel stuff, not a ton of video, all just like basic things that the eyes can see. But do you feel like you really started to push the boundaries of technology earlier? And do you think that helped you kind of advance in this career faster?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think one of the things you have to do is, as you're young, and traditionally golf instruction has definitely been, we had gurus, you had like Butch, you had David Ledbetter, Chuck Cook, Jim McLean, Mike Adams, you had all these like amazing teachers and coaches. And in order to fast track yourself, you basically had to use technology to learn, to figure things out. And obviously those guys are really, really successful and probably were not embracing of technology as much as, say, younger people were. So the best thing about data is it's very objective. So you start to learn and understand what's actually happening. Right. Obviously, 3D motion capture was a massive, massive thing, because you started to see, okay, well, video is telling me one thing, but here's actually what's happening, and here's the movements that are creating that. And then we got into ground reaction forces. And obviously we had radar technology, ball launch monitors. And now we've got a very different sort of mindset on the ball flight laws. We start to understand, you know, a lot more club geometry. And then you throw all these things together and all of a sudden it's like, wow. And then you put in the emotional motor learning, all of these other pieces. And you start to actually validate why some of these coaches have been so successful with certain players, why they struggled with other players. What are the soft skills that they're so good at? Like getting people to do things. Why do people play well when they're in Butch Harmon's presence? What is it he does? Well, he's an incredible motivator, / psychologist. That's his superpower. But that's what coaching is, right? So again, you start to, there's a lot of what people are incredible at. Technology validates. Now, whilst a lot of people might be reluctant and, push it away, when you start to explore, being curious, I think, is really important in a learning field. All of a sudden, you get all these disciplines, you get access to it, and all of a sudden you can fast track. And I always say technology is for the student to expedite the learning curve. It validates and shows us things as the coach. But at the end of the day, you still have to be someone who has human interaction, right? Like the soft skills are still massively important. But technology allowed me to have a bigger understanding and a better understanding a lot more quickly. However, there's still no substitute for teaching people. And we all learn more from our mistakes than our successes. And obviously the guys that have been coaching for 40, 50 years, they've made lots of errors, but that's where they get their wisdom from. And so that's where, for a young guy, you had to use technology to be able to bypass, some of that experience. There's no substitute for it, but you're trying to fast track.
Aaron Judge, no stranger to hitting 60 home runs in a season, but we certainly aren't going to put a FanDuel win total or even DraftKings at 60. So Sam, our producer, set it at 55. Aaron Judge will hit 55 plus home runs this year. You going to buy or sell?
All right, Aaron Rodgers here.
Oh, there
Aaron,
he is.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Can you hit 55? Aaron Judge, right? Got it in my head here. 55 is asking a lot, Sam. It's asking a lot. He hit 53 last year, 58 the year before, 37, but that was the year he hurt his toe in Dodger Stadium, and then, of course, 62. I got to sell this. All right, you're asking for just to be 7 home runs off the record? I mean, no, we can't keep doing this every year here. Plus, he does have an injury history there. Over the last 2 years, he's been completely healthy. I'll just say no. Between the possibility of an injury, teams waking up and going, nope, not pitching to him, I'll take the under here. Although, as a Yankee fan, he better. Because if he don't, Yankees going to be in a lot of trouble.
So I've decided to go by the letter of the law. Sam is not going to like this. Sam is not going to like my answer. Yep. Sam, listen. Sam leaves these little loopholes in the buy or sell. 55 home runs between 55 plus the regular season, postseason, World Baseball Classic, buy. Spring training, buy. Above 55 between spring training, World Baseball Classic, regular season, and postseason. Aaron Judge will hit 55 home runs. He didn't say this season. He didn't say this season. He said this year. The graphic says this year.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday, starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
I think the great coaches are coaches that understand matchups in golf swings, and you talk about how all of your players swing the golf club differently. Was there a certain matchup that you felt uncomfortable teaching at an earlier point in your career that now you feel like, hey, there isn't anything that I can't coach?
That's a great point. I think if we're all honest, I mean, a lot of times we have preferences, and I think early on you're a byproduct of how you've been indoctrinated and how you've been taught. And so I think at times you've had preferences and you probably felt more comfortable teaching those patterns. But then over time, I think you start to look at things and try and figure out, well, why does that work? And then once you start to be able to measure it, break it down and understand the ingredients, if you like, of that recipe, then it becomes really interesting because every student is somebody who's different and it's an opportunity to work on a different recipe. So now I kind of look at it as a bit of it's a critical thinking challenge, but that's the part I really enjoy. Like, how am I going to figure this out for the shot the person wants to hit, the trajectory, the shape, and then what they're bringing to me are some of the ingredients, and then invariably they're missing some to make the recipe that they want, and I've got to kind of figure out how am I going to do that. So I think now, when they're different, it's a really good challenge. I think early on, if it had been something that was complicated, I wouldn't necessarily know what to do. Now I think with time and experience, you're always you don't really ever panic. You're like, oh, that's interesting. Well, how does that work? Okay. And the funniest part is, I think, simplicity is on the other side of complexity. A friend of mine said that to me once, and it's genius. But the reality is, once you start to,
It's so true.
once you start to understand stuff, that's where the fundamentals and the simple setup, the things that seem so mundane are really, really significant because they have such an influence on everything else. And the genius is to figure out what's the one thing that accomplishes so many other things. And I think the likes of Chuck Cook, Randy Smith, Butch Harmon are all really good at that. And you get that with experience. And so I'd say I probably say a lot less now than I used to. But when I do say something, it's probably a lot more conviction, and I'm like, oh, this is what you need to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I even think about a player like Ches Reavie, who you've coached for it feels like forever. And if you go look at Ches Reavie's golf swing, and if you've never seen him hit, first off, one of the straightest golf hitters I've ever seen in my entire life, just comes out right in the center every single time. But here's a guy that has all sorts of things going on in his golf swing. And I imagine maybe a younger self would have seen this golf swing and said, well, I think I know what to do with this, but not really quite sure. When you have something so unique like a Ches Reavie come through the door, like how nice is it to have that background with, even just in college with your fitness background, working all the way up and having this technology to guide you?
Yeah, no, it's great because you can see the genius of why something works. I think it's always good. You never judge a book by its cover. I always tell everyone that the best golfers generally make a really good noise. And then if you just watch the golf ball, it's their ball control and what do they do. And I think we now have a much better appreciation of older swings, like swings going back in the day that tended to look, they were very idiosyncratic. They weren't, you were like, well, that doesn't really look right, but they were great players. And now you can see the genius of how that worked. And I think that's the part that you get when good players come in and they're good ball strikers. Okay, what makes them great? What are they doing? Okay, why does that work? And then you're trying to always do no harm. It's like a medical doctor, like you take an oath, like I'm trying to make you better, but I'm trying to do it without making you worse as well, right? So that's the great part. Like Ches had some great pieces. He was coming back from an injury. It was like, what are some of the adjustments you can make to not get re-injured? Why did you get injured? And I think it's one of those things where you're just trying to always build around what somebody does well. What is the DNA, the nucleus of what they do? Yeah. And everybody who gets to the tour is great at something, because they're the top 1% of the 1% of golfers around the world. So I think people sometimes forget that, that won't work. Well, if you'd gone back 15 years, people would look at Scotty Scheffler and probably go, that's not going to work. But it's genius. Like if you actually look at it now, a lot of what he does is incredible. And obviously Randy's so wise that he never changed any of it. He just nurtured it. And I think that's the part that's what good coaching is like, how do you get somebody to continue to do things? And I think good athletes tend to, if you like, push the envelope and challenge the norm. And I think a lot of things, when the Frisbee flopped, the first guy to do the high jump this way, everyone thought it was bonkers. Well, now it's the norm, right? So I think all of these things over time, things change, but your understanding of, that will work because of this, that definitely takes a higher learning. But that's the fun part. If you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But if you got a toolkit, everything is kind of different. You can fix anything.
We knew this was coming at some point, but did you think he was going for Kristaps Porzingis? It's almost like they thought they were going to get it on Giannis. They didn't get Giannis, so they went to Porzingis. Now, Porzingis is a stretch five if he's healthy. Rim protection, block shots, three-point shooting, helps Golden State.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
You guys had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. You knew you were facing a Mike McDonald defense that disguises everything, and that was your game plan, to play scared. I mean, Mike Vrabel, I love the guy. He played that game, Donnie, like it was a preseason scrimmage in August and not the Super Bowl.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
So you know Gary Bettman wants the USA to win because he knows the bump that they can get out of this. Canada wins, and it's like, yeah, whatever, right? And the level of pressure on Canada in this is next level. It's like it's equivalent to like Argentina in soccer or something, Brazil. It's one of those like, yeah, if you lose, don't bother coming home.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
have something so unique like a Ches Reavie come through the door, like how nice is it to have that background with, even just in college with your fitness background, working all the way up and having this technology to guide you?
Yeah, no, it's great because you can see the genius of why something works. I think it's always good. You never judge a book by its cover. I always tell everyone that the best golfers generally make a really good noise. And then if you just watch the golf ball, it's their ball control and what do they do. And I think we now have a much better appreciation of older swings, like swings going back in the day that tended to look, they were very idiosyncratic. They weren't, you were like, well, that doesn't really look right, but they were great players. And now you can see the genius of how that worked. And I think that's the part that you get when good players come in and they're good ball strikers. Okay, what makes them great? What are they doing? Okay, why does that work? And then you're trying to always do no harm. It's like a medical doctor, like you take an oath, like I'm trying to make you better, but I'm trying to do it without making you worse as well, right? So that's the great part. Like Ches had some great pieces. He was coming back from an injury. It was like, what are some of the adjustments you can make to not get re-injured? Why did you get injured? And I think it's one of those things where you're just trying to always build around what somebody does well. What is the DNA, the nucleus of what they do? Yeah. And everybody who gets to the tour is great at something, because they're the top 1% of the 1% of golfers around the world. So I think people sometimes forget that, that won't work. Well, if you'd gone back 15 years, people would look at Scottie Scheffler and probably go, that's not going to work. But it's genius. Like if you actually look at it now, a lot of what he does is incredible. And obviously Randy's so wise that he never changed any of it. He just nurtured it. And I think that's the part that's what good coaching is like, how do you get somebody to continue to do things? And I think good athletes tend to, if you like, push the envelope and challenge the norm. And I think a lot of things, when the Frisbee flopped, the first guy to do the high jump this way, everyone thought it was bonkers. Well, now it's the norm, right? So I think all of these things over time, things change, but your understanding of, that will work because of this, that definitely takes a higher learning. But that's the fun part. If you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But if you got a toolkit, everything is kind of different. You can fix anything, right? And I think that's more, I always liken it a bit to, I used to love the show House on TV, where he would basically get everyone right, and it would be doing it alternatively and slightly differently. And that's kind of how I like to look at it.
Well, you mentioned Scottie Scheffler, and I quickly have to ask, because I think we can all agree that he's undoubtedly the best ball striker in the game, and what he's able to do with the golf ball day in and day out and execute is phenomenal. I want to ask you, as somebody who's the best coach in the game right now, what is the key ingredient? What is the one thing that you see that makes it work time and again for him?
I just think, I know, obviously, Phil Kenyon's a very good friend of mine, and he just talks about how incredible his hands are and his hand-eye coordination. I think ultimately he's very diligent with his grip. I've seen him, the shots he hits. I think he's a great athlete playing golf. I don't think he's cluttered. I think he keeps it very simple. I think Randy does an amazing job with that. And his shot making is just phenomenal. Like he plays golf shots, like he hits this sort of lowish, squeezy cut. I see a lot. And then he's got a smash shot. Like he always hits the right shot. Like it's like very similar to watching Tiger or Rosie, but he just keeps doing it. And he's a big man too, right? Like he's 6'3", 6'4". And that's what I think people forget. He's got a massively long arc, so he's able to do and hit some shots which are phenomenal. There's upright golf swings have a big advantage that they can generate a lot of speed. He's also very, very accurate. And I think that Randy has nurtured him so well to like play the game. And he's such a competitor. Like when you're around him, he's competitive with everything.
Yes.
He'd want to play table tennis with you, and he'd want to beat you, and then he'd say, I'm sorry afterwards. But like in the moment, he's phenomenal. But I think he's got great hands. I think he's got a golf swing that makes a lot of sense. It's got all of the right matchups for him, and his shot making ability is incredible. And he plays the game. At the end of the day, I think Tiger had a very pretty looking golf swing and it was very functional, but he played the game so well. Like tactically, he was so disciplined. Scott Fawcett's decades based on, tracking Tiger's shots and how he played was just incredible. Very similar to Nicklaus. So it's like Scotty plays like that. I think he's got so many shots. He's fearless, and Phil Kenyon's done a great job of getting him putting. Unfortunately for the rest of us,
Yes.
but I just think that I think he's an athlete playing golf. I think there's a lot of genius in what he does. I think he's got a phenomenal head on his shoulders. He's got the ultimate competitor mindset, but he's also got a lot of humility and a lot of grace. Like I think he's great for golf, and he's great to watch. Like take videos, show him to my other players. Like he's hitting shots. It's not just the same thing, but I think his hand-eye coordination is probably the best of possibly all the players. Is phenomenal, and I've never like. I don't know that. I'm just going on what I'm told and my observation.
I could tell you he's very good at pickleball, and he absolutely whooped me. So, and his hand-eye was just insane. I was like, what in the world? This guy's good at everything. An incredible athlete. He's like, he was huge at the net. Felt like it was Dirk Nowitzki at the net. Couldn't get it by the guy. All right. So if you're listening right now, it's probably a good time to either head over to the YouTube, or if you're watching this later on Golf Channel, we have videos that Marcus sent us of 4 of his players. We have Justin Rose, we have Matt Fitzpatrick, Max Homa, and Daniel Berger. And we're going to kind of just look at some of the ingredients that all of these players do. So Charlie, can we start with Justin Rose? I believe this is going to be on the range here at Torrey. And the first thing is the thing we have to talk about, which is what is this on the right side of his knee? What are we trying to train here with this device?
Yeah, so one of the things that Rosie likes to feel as a player is he likes to be quite passive through impact. So he has a tendency at times for his right knee and his right leg to work a little too inward towards the ball, which then leads his torso backing up a little bit, and then he has to straighten his arms out. And so by putting the ball, which is a great device, Martin Chuck, it's one of his sort of smart ball devices, but it's a strap that you can put on different pieces of your body. It forces him to really kind of make the right knee work more towards the left knee. If you were going to be very technically nerdy, he works his knee more medially towards his trail knee towards his lead knee. So he's got a lot of space, and he can lower and he can get the club down in front of him. Like he wants to have a lot of rotation in his golf swing. That's what he likes to feel. His bad golf is played with a lot of slide and tilt and arm throw out. So he feels like his best golf is played with a bit more depth in the backswing, quite centered. And then he sort of lowers, gets the club back in front of him, but the sweet spot behind him, then he turns. So obviously this drill's designed, and we kind of threw this in this week. He likes it because it then allows him to reflex or cover the golf ball and be quite passive through the hit. And obviously that is definitely indicative of how he played this week. Lots of straight lasers, but that's how he likes to play. He likes the stock shot kind of straight to falling left. And this just allows him to do it. But he's a phenomenal athlete. Like he does a great job with his strength and conditioning team. Adam Dunn, Rob Goldup, Justin Buckthorpe, and then, Charlie Marshall, who's just finished with him. All these guys are some of the best in their field, physios, chiros, and S&C trainers. So he's got a body to do it, and he works religiously. Like I always say, players kind of, you give them a blueprint of this is kind of what you've had success with. Here's the things you need to do to be successful. And they crave certain feels and cues. And as you know, as a former player, the job of the coach is to put them in that situation to be able to produce the shot they want. So when it comes out the, barrel, so to speak, it's what they want.
When you started working with Justin Rose back in 2022, as we now are looking at a face on, what were some of the things that you initially noticed if you went back and looked at when Justin was really swinging it well? But his best golf ball striking years, from what I could tell, were around like 14 to 18. He was striping it during those years. What exactly did you find, whether it was looking back or just looking at his swing at the present in 2022, was the back problems?
Dallas Cowboys. Like, they're competitive every year. They're going to win a Super Bowl? No, but at least at the beginning of the season, like, I have aspirations to make a playoff, maybe win the division and see what we can do. For the Raiders, every day, the minute you kick off week number 1, you are out of the playoff picture. You stink and can't perform. That's tough because you don't get a 20-year career as a defensive end typically in the NFL. So your time now is to strike. I have all the money. Now I want to win.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
So you know Gary Bettman wants the USA to win because he knows the bump that they can get out of this. Canada wins, and it's like, yeah, whatever. Right? And the level of pressure on Canada in this is next level. It's like, it's equivalent to like Argentina in soccer or something, Brazil. It's one of those, like, yeah, if you lose, don't bother coming home.
Winter Games Central, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
They're just unblemished everywhere. They dominate you defensively, and they have offensive balance. They force turnovers and control the glass. Let's put it to you like this. UConn isn't just undefeated. They're a tyrant over the women's basketball landscape. March won't expose them much as they will confirm their invincibility.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, so I think he's kind of had two patterns. He had a pattern early on when he and Foles started, which had a little bit more depth to it, lower arm playing, which matches his kind of shoulder flexion and how his body moves. And then he had some back issues and they wanted to take some stress off his back. So then they kind of changed his posture a little bit more Sam Snead-ish, slightly longer swing with a little bit more arm lift, which I think was a really good pattern. But I think what happened over time during COVID when he had less contact is that got overdosed. And then what ended up happening is he had his arms and his body weren't synced up at all. He had quite a lot of lift. He had a lot of drift off the ball. He had a lot of slide. His arms came off him and he had a lot of throw out. So I said to him initially, I said, look, let's look at how you move. My intuition is I think you're going to do better being a little more centered and a little deeper with your arm playing. Once we screened him out, it kind of matched how his body moved. It was familiar to him. And the reality was it was probably moving him back somewhere between where he was in his best golf and, the two patterns. We're somewhere in between that, maybe more towards as he's gotten bigger too. The other thing that if you look at Rosie from even when he won Torrey the first time, in 19, I think it was 19, or was it? I think it was. He wasn't as big. He's put on a lot of mass, and he's a different body now. Like he's a strong guy. Like moves around a lot of weight, and so he's thicker. So his arms tend to do better being a little bit deeper. He tends to work better turning, and so those things. That's kind of why we developed the swing a bit more in the way it is now. I'd say he's more powerful, produces more force now, whereas when he was a little younger, a little leaner, a little longer, it was a little bit more leveraged perhaps. And so we're always trying to take stress off him. But he's, the other thing we did was we realized that even after Memphis, still had a tendency to miss some shots right. And I was like, well, I think your grip's gotten weaker over time. And before the Ryder Cup, he was up in the Hamptons playing golf, and he was like, I'd suggested it. He kind of, as you do with players, you suggest, and it has to be a player's idea. You're probably very familiar with that.
Oh, yeah.
And then he says to me, well, I'm trying strengthening my grip. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. So I said, tell you what, I'm going to talk to Mark Bull, who's his biomet guy in the UK, and let's look at some data. And so sure enough, where his grip was earlier in 25 versus where it was, say, in 18 when he was playing really, really good golf, it had gotten about 20 degrees weaker. So as soon as we got the grip back stronger, this is going into the Ryder Cup, gave him a bit more leverage, but it also got the face stronger. So now he could start to swing harder without worrying about a right miss. And that's one of the things, that started to be him to basically put out to the club the energy that his body was producing. And so now he's starting to get, in practice, he can get mid 180 ball speed, but I think his last shot on Sunday on 18 was 179. So he's cruising with some decent speed, but he's putting a lot of the club on the ball.
Yes,
so
he is. Holy moly.
It's really one of those things, kind of just put the pieces together. And as your body changes, so does your golf swing. And I think that's the goal as the coach, is to be ahead of where the body is going. And the people I talk to the most on teams is the strength and conditioning coach or the physio and the chiro, because they're molding the clay that I'm working with, and they're producing the body that they're the most important person. And assuming that they're healthy physically, the trainer is the superstar. So with Berger, it's Ben Shear. With Max Homer, it's Jason Glass. Obviously, with Rosie, he's got Rob Goldup, he's got Charlie Marshall, he's got Justin Buckthorpe, he's got Adam Dunn. So it's one of those things where every player I kind of help has someone. Matt Fitzpatrick's got Luke Mackey. He's got Eric Cressy down there. He's a baseball legend. And Andrew works for Eric Cressy. So they're producing the athleticism for me to be able to be, okay, well, this is what we're trying to do in the swing.
Man, Rosie's golf at the Ryder Cup on Friday and Saturday, I think I watched him hit every single shot Friday and Saturday, may have been some of the most impressive golf I've ever witnessed. I'm telling you, Mark, because I was behind him on most shots that he would hit, at least in the fairway. These things were lasers. And then his driver too, like even, I can't remember if it was Friday or Saturday that he played with Bryson DeChambeau. He was right behind him, but sometimes even out driving him. It was insane how good that golf was at the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, no, I said to him after the first time I saw him after the Ryder Cup, that we were actually together, was prior to him going to the DP World in Dubai, and we met in the Bahamas, and we're stretching in the gym. And I was like, I just got one question for you. Can we have the same mindset that we have at the Ryder Cup on every single tournament we play at? He goes, dude, I'd love to do that. So it's so interesting, like just the environment and how people go. But yeah, at the Ryder Cup, he was phenomenal. So was Fitzy. Both of them played really well.
They were absolutely dialed. And one quick thing on Justin before we get to Fitzy is that when I was looking at just some just general strokes gained off the tee data for Rosie over the last 3 or so years, I was like more surprised to see that the driver has been, up and down. And then this past week, we've shown this driver here a couple different times now. And sometimes, Mark, players will have feels with driver that they won't have with their irons. And I feel like Rosie's the type of player that might kind of teeter back and forth with having a feel with the driver. Is that the case for him? And what's the kind of the ingredients for him to where he is driving at his best, like we saw this past week at Torrey?
Yeah, I think one of the things that with Rosie, he's very, very, although it looks technical, I'd say he's one of the best I've ever worked with at creating external cues and a lot of imagery to create the movements that he has. And with a driver, one of the things that he's very aware of is if he doesn't stay on his right leg long enough, he's got a problem. Now, obviously, if the face is open and you try and stay on your right leg, you're going to hit a lot of blocks. But if the face is holding in there, you're incentivized to essentially, I can do that a little bit more without fear of it going right. And so that would be one of the things he does really well. He gets the ball up, but he also likes to kind of feel like his body's very much opening up. The club's pretty passive. His struggles with the driver come if he gets quick out the top. Like that's notorious for a long time. And so one of the things he tries to do, I try and use the analogy with him, is a bit of a diesel truck. No power early in the golf swing. It's all late. I mean, those are obviously feels, and the reality is that's probably not quite the case, but he's going to give himself enough time. Anytime he does anything quite quickly, that's a challenge. So obviously he builds energy in the backswing. There's an argument that if he took the club back faster, he'd apply more force in the change of direction. But for him, we've tried that. It doesn't tend to be as effective.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
I don't think he was trying to take a shot at the team at all. It was just a plain and simple and obvious fact.
I think what's difficult, though, is, and I agree with you, right? I guess I agree with LeBron. The assessment of it all, it's why the Lakers organization seems to be comfortable with that truth, unless they disagree. But again, I don't really know how you disagree.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
You guys had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. You knew you were facing a Mike McDonald defense that disguises everything, and that was your game plan, to play scared. I mean, Mike Vrabel, I love the guy. He played that game, Donnie, like it was a preseason scrimmage in August and not the Super Bowl.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
We knew this was coming at some point, but did you think he was going for Kristaps Porzingis? It's almost like they thought they were going to get it on Giannis. They didn't get Giannis, so they went to Porzingis. Now, Porzingis is a stretch five if he's healthy. Rim protection, block shots, three-point shooting, helps Golden State.
Pro basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, so, next one we're going back to golf. Gold, silver, bronze, your medal podium for golf instructors all time.
Oh, that's a great one. All right, so I would probably put, that's a great question. So if you went on pure resume, you would go on, like for the best players, you'd probably go with Butch. If you went on the resume from taking someone from a junior to the number one in the world, it would be Randy Smith. And they'd probably they're different, but they're similar in a lot of ways. So those two are neck and neck. I think John Jacobs is an English guy who's a bit of a legend in the golf instruction world. So you'd have to sort of throw him in there. And then if I only can do three, I'd probably do those three just based on that. But I'd put Butch and Randy kind of like this just because of the skill sets. Butch is incredible at taking someone, well, he's historically taken these guys and made them unbelievable. Randy's done it on both sides. So
Amazing.
It's pretty interesting.
There you go. Okay, now we know you moved to play golf at Southern Miss from England, and I'm just wondering, your favorite piece of Southern cuisine where you arrived to the States, you're like, what is this place? And you get served this, and you're like, I really love this food.
That's good. I'm a big fan of shrimp and grits. Do like shrimp and grits. Well, we got married in New Orleans. My wife's family's from there, so anything that's Creole, Cajun food, I'm a big fan of Southern food. I like jambalaya. I like gumbos. I like
Go Tigers.
LSU would be my second SEC team. I'm a big fan of Drago's charbroiled and other charbroiled oysters.
God, that's just so good, man. Oh, man, this is so good.
So redfish is one of my favorite fish is probably redfish. Cook that all the time. I get that from Sexton's in Birmingham. Love redfish. So I guess any of that sort of Louisiana Southern cuisine. I'm not a massive fried chicken person. I'm just...
Okay. It's like Southern seafood. You got a brand.
Yes.
I like that. I love that.
Southern seafood, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, one more for you on the way out, right? And this could be a rough estimate, but I just want to know if you could guess how many times in your life you've been asked unsolicited to take a look at this.
Oh, I've lost count of that for sure.
And now, quick addendum. Did you lose count of that before or after you lost count of how many wins you had on tour?
No, I've definitely been been asked, can you have a look at this more times than I've won tour events? I can tell you that for sure.
Perfect.
Probably in the worst places too. The worst would be, gosh, an airplane.
It's unbelievable. I'll tell you the funniest one. This is hilarious. So we're skiing. We're in Colorado skiing. And I'm going to leave any names out here, but we're at dinner at this nice chateau place, okay? And with some friends. And somebody comes up to the table, this grown human, and goes, you the golf guy? You the guy, the golf coach guy? And I'm like, I got no golf gear on. I mean, it's freezing. I got swear on. And my wife just looks at me, and I'm just like, and you don't ever want to be rude to anybody. And I'm like, I'm not sure. What do you mean? He goes, you are, aren't you? And this guy just wouldn't leave. And I'm just like, and so these people, these stories about people going to doctors at tables and stuff. I'm like, yeah, people have it's for some reason, if it's golf, they're your best friend, and there's no reason they shouldn't ask you anything. And I feel sorry for my wife. The funniest part is people are always asking her, do you think Mark could help my father-in-law, or could Mark do this? And I'm like, just, honey, I don't know what to tell you. So it's interesting. Like, if whatever is it, I guess it's like you're the village doctor. It's a free-for-all.
You see, just say, hey, grab a steak knife and I'll show you where your hands need to be. Create a little more depth in the backswing.
I've done plenty of those in restaurants with silverware and cutlery. I will say that. But yeah, it's people have no shame. I guess that's the best way to say it. I guess their golf games is just like it's anyone's business.
I can tell you, Charlie and I certainly have zero shame. We would have no problem. No problem.
Yeah, but it's the thing is, if it's people who you know are kind of in the business, I'm into it. I'll get all excited about it. But when it's somebody you don't know completely, you're like, really?
Yeah, come on. Go back there and eat your bread.
Yeah,
that's great.
All right, Charlie. Well, this has been a great conversation. Of course, if you want to learn more about Mark Blackburn, the way he coaches, I think this is a good place to start. I'm going to be starting on it tomorrow, the coaching code. I'm sure there's plenty of places to find it. I imagine Amazon would be a good spot to start.
Amazon or my website, blackburngolf.com, you can get it. Rosie wrote the forward, actually, which is good,
beautiful.
Ironically. So, yeah.
Yeah,
leave
right
some
on
good
cue.
notes in the margins for me, Smylie. When I get that copy from you, I want to have it highlighted, all the good spots.
I'll send you a copy too. That's not a problem. When I get back home, I can get you one.
Amazing. Mark, well, I appreciate you taking time. This has been an incredible conversation. Look forward to seeing you in Phoenix this week, and I'll see you definitely on the road. It's just our life these days, isn't it?
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
See you, buddy. Thanks.
This has been The Smylie Show.
You guys had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. You knew you were facing a Mike McDonald defense that disguises everything, and that was your game plan, to play scared. I mean, Mike Vrabel, I love the guy. He played that game, Donnie, like it was a preseason scrimmage in August and not the Super Bowl.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Super Bowl Sunday, about $870 million was traded. Again, I caution you, that is not the same as sports betting handle for a variety of reasons, but we also saw Nevada sportsbooks, which includes Las Vegas, only took about $133 million in handle. That was its worst performance in the decade in terms of total handle on the game. Now, we don't have ratings. We don't have a lot of other things. There's a lot of reasons for that.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
The Patriots postseason to the worst regular season of the last umpteen years. Fair enough?
Fair.
All right. So the Patriots postseason, they averaged 1.13 points per drive, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The winless Cleveland Browns about 10 years ago averaged 1.22.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
So you know Gary Bettman wants the USA to win because he knows the bump that they can get out of this. Canada wins, and it's like, yeah, whatever, right? And the level of pressure on Canada in this is next level. It's like it's equivalent to like Argentina in soccer or something, Brazil. It's one of those like, yeah, if you lose, don't bother coming home.
Winter Game Central, only on SportsGrid.